Tonight on News 5 Live, 960 kilos of cocaine are discovered in the Tomas Garrido Canabal, a Mexican community near Blue Creek. The discovery comes days after a suspected drug jet was discovered and damaged and abandoned in Blue Creek. A U.S. fugitive apprehended at a Ladeville apartment is offered bail of $1 million by a U.S. court. In the Belmopan Supreme Court, still no statement from William Danny Mason's final witness. The defense prepares to close. Final submissions are made in the claim brought against the Belize City Council by former City Administrator Candice Miller. A decision is expected on Friday. And a fire in Lord's Bank leaves a woman homeless. The inferno erupted early this morning and destroyed her home. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
With over 100 years of service excellence in Belize, the Belize Bank Limited recognizes the importance of leading the way as we
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Thursday, October 3rd. I am Marlene Cuellar. Earlier this week, a Gulfstream jet was found damaged and abandoned near the Blue Creek community at a feeder road. It had all the seats inside, so the thinking was that it transported a drug kingpin, but not drugs. Well, today, Mexican newspapers are reporting the find of a significant amount of parcels of cocaine at Tomas Garrido, a community about 16 miles from Blue Creek and as close as 1.5 miles from the Rio Hondo. The cocaine was parceled off and weighed in at 960 kilos and put at a street value of $30 million. Local police said today they have no further information on the drug jet, but the Mexicans are linking it to the narco jet on this side of the border. Here's News 5's Hipólito Novello with this report.
Mexican law enforcement authorities discovered some 960 kilos of cocaine buried beneath the earth in the Tomas Garrido community in Mexico. The drug was in 48 sacks. Each sack contained 20 blocks of cocaine, which has a street value of 237 million pesos, close to $30 million. The discovery was made 1.5 miles from the Rio Hondo River and some 16 miles away from Blue Creek Village. The discovery was made a few days after the jet crash landed in Blue Creek Village. No drugs were found inside the executive jet, but Mexican authorities suspect that the cocaine is linked to the failed landing of the jet on this side of the border. Also found at the scene were several firearms and 2 vehicles. The insured vehicles, drug, and weapons were turned over to the corresponding authorities. Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
There is a development in the case of a U.S. national captured at a Ladyville apartment on September 19th. The police apprehended 60-year-old Lad Duane Otafi, who was residing at the apartment complex owned by former UDP Senator Juliet Timbrell. The Kentucky man was indicted in March on 4 counts of first-degree sexual abuse, 1 count of first-degree sexual abuse on a victim under the age of 12, 1 count of second-degree rape, and 1 count of second-degree sodomy. Otafi allegedly abused several minors between November 2017 and December 2018. A relative posted a bond of $25,000 for Otafi, but he failed to reappear in court in March and was subsequently captured in Ladyville. Otafi was taken back to the U.S. and appeared in court where $1 million was offered for bail. He is to reappear in court on November 20th, 2019. 36-year-old Thomas Alexander Paises has been deported to his country of origin. Paises was arrested for being a member of the MS-13 gang and deported to El Salvador. He was arrested by the Anti-Gang Task Force and Interpol officers in Belize last month, but was handed over to Salvadoran and Guatemalan Interpol representatives at the Belize western border on October 1st. According to police, Paises was arrested in Belmopan during an anti-gang operation. Police investigations into his background revealed that Paises was convicted via an ex parte trial in El Salvador in October 2015, along with other MS-13 gang members for robbery and kidnapping. Paises will serve a 40-year prison sentence in El Salvador for crimes committed in that country. Prior to his detention, he was residing at Maravilla Street in Las Flores area in Belmopan City. The case against William Danny Mason and 4 accused men continues to languish in the Belmopan Supreme Court. A statement from a witness, a U.S. Embassy employee for Mason, has not yet been secured because Tim Reed is no longer in Belize, and arranging his testimony has met hurdles. Mason and accomplices are accused of the beheading of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas in 2017. Today, Brian Neal, attorney for Kieron Fernandez, indicated that they are prepared to close arguments without the statement from Reed. Here is Dalila Ikal with this report.
The court has still not received a statement from William Danny Mason's final witness, Tim Reed. The U.S. Embassy responded to the Foreign Affairs Ministry on Wednesday of this week, but it could take another week to 10 days before that statement is received. When the trial hearing resumed today, the defense informed Justice Antoinette Moore that if the statement was not in by Friday, they were prepared to close. Since it is Mason's witness, Justice Moore asked if he was in agreement. Even though Mason stated he was prepared for the trial to close without Reed's statement, Justice Moore was hesitant to proceed.
The witness is a witness who worked at the American Embassy and is no longer in Belize. So there was an exchange, from what I understand from what the judge said, there were some exchanges of diplomatic notes between Belize and the United States of America. And they are close to finalizing the recording of a statement to determine if they want the witness to come or testify via Skype. The judge is saying that she prefers, having waited for 3 weeks to get this witness and get this statement, that we should wait another week to see if the witness materializes and then determine if we close the case after that witness.
Okay, now sir, we noticed that you had or of a different view. Explain to us why.
Well, my concern is I am looking at the constitutionality of a fair trial in this matter. This matter started with a previous attorney. 5 attorneys were brought on board. A 6th was brought on board. Months have passed. So that my concern now as a defense attorney is the time that it is taken and whether that we can say that there's a fair trial here. So I am of the view that the quicker we close this case, the fairer it will be to the defendants.
After the matter was agreed upon, Justice Moore continued with the issues conference. Attorney Brian Neal, who represents Kieran Fernandez, raised a number of points he considers important in his client's case.
Some of the issues I raised is whether there was any joint enterprise between my client and the other 4 accused. I don't see it. Whether the DNA evidence is sufficient and the circumstantial evidence is sufficient to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't see it. And whether his presence at the farm outside of what the witnesses have said makes him guilty, I don't see that. And lastly, there was one final issue, but those are the main issues. Oh, whether the poor pastor even died at that farm, making that farm the crime scene. That is a very relevant issue as far as I'm concerned. We don't know where he died.
And while the case has indeed seen numerous delays, it was once more adjourned to October 10th. Dalilai Kal for News 5.
A decision will be handed down this Friday afternoon in a claim brought by former City Administrator Candice Miller against the Belize City Council for unlawful termination. Attorneys Magali Perdomo for Miller and Anthony Sylvester for the Council made their final submissions before Justice Courtney Abel. The Council terminated Miller's contract back in 2018 on grounds of dereliction of duties as City Administrator. It is also countersuing Miller for $1 million in relation to a claim that was made by Belize Waste Control against Citco. Sylvester submitted that Miller knew about the debt but failed to inform the incoming mayor and council. In the evidence presented and witness statements recorded, Sylvester outlined several incidents, including Miller not demanding full payment on a loan given to the General Secretary of the Mayor's Association, Enrique Carballo, as well as a payment made to Gilbert Franklin for over $59,000. Perdomo argued that none of the incidents constitute gross misconduct and that the mayor had blocked Miller from carrying out her duties. Following the proceedings, Attorney Sylvester shared brief comments with the media.
Well, as you guys witnessed,
It was a withering afternoon.
it was a riveting 3 days, and so we await tomorrow and see what will be the outcome. But it was, we put forward our case and we'll await the judgment. I want to preempt anything. Okay?
So, do you believe that you guys were able to prove that Miss Miller did not do what she was supposed to do, and that her actions were dereliction of her duties?
Well, as much as I'd want to answer your question, you do recall, and the judge is deliberating on those same issues, and so as much as I would want to comment, I will have to leave whatever comment on the actual verdict and outcome of the case and the facts of the case until tomorrow.
Would you
Thank you.
consider that you stand on a weak wicket based on the judge's withering review of your 3 grounds for dismissal?
I would not agree to your characterization, but I know, Jules, you always have a very articulate way in which to characterize things. So I will thank you. Tomorrow we'll have to wait and see what will happen.
As we said, Justice Abel will deliver his decision on Friday at 2 p.m. Coming Reynaldo Verde, the Deputy Director of the Belize Tax Service, remains locked up on extortion charges. But who is the middleman who set up the meeting with the principal at Orchid Bay? Reynaldo Verde remains locked up in the U.S. on charges of extortion and attempted extortion, having been denied bail on Wednesday. His attorney, Tyler Trumbach, says that his client denies all accusations. The FBI, however, has amassed damning evidence against Verde, who reportedly attempted to use his position as Deputy Director of Belize Tax Services to financially gain from the principal of Orchid Bay Development, Chris Williams. The initial contact between Williams and Verde was a middleman. This would mean that Verde was not acting alone. The charges against the senior public officer has given Belize a black eye and prompted comments from both sides of the aisle. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Dean Barrow was asked about the possibility of other public officers involved in the plot to allegedly extort Williams.
Is it then worrisome that there may be other people in your government who may be involved and being investigated?
That's not my government. When you talk about my government, people are likely to think you're talking about the executive. Okay. These are public officers that are members of the government. But I repeat what I said earlier. The bulk of the public officers, we're looking at good people, but there are the bad apples, and to the extent that other bad apples could in fact be discovered, could be pinpointed, that would be good, I think, for all concerned.
It will affect us internationally. Investors will look thrice before they even consider Belize. It looks bad on our administration because they're highlighting senior member of the government's staff. It gives insecurity to the local business investors because they experience it more than anybody else on a daily basis. And now the Belizean people are becoming aware. It is what is happening when you have corruption in front of you. And we'll see what happens. But like what the Prime Minister said in the past, he don't want to tangle with FTC. Well, I don't think he wants to tangle with the FBI either.
On Wednesday, representatives from 3 butane companies, namely Belize Western Energy Limited, Gastomsa, and Southern Choice Butane, Zeta Gas, met with Prime Minister Dean Barrow. On the table for discussion was the newly formed National Gas Company, which will oversee the LPG industry in Belize. According to Prime Minister Dean Barrow, the National Gas Company's main objectives are to lower the cost of butane and ensure a quality product for the benefit of the consumers. The exiting importers of LPG, however, are not happy because they have invested millions of dollars in the industry. PM Barrow says that these companies can submit bids for the transportation of LPG.
You've seen where one of the investors in the company, Mr. Bowen, is saying, look, if we can't bring in the LPG cheaper than is currently the case, I will in fact eat my hat. Or he's done better. He said, I will make a contribution of the difference to some kind of charity or something like that. This is how convinced everybody involved in the National Gas Company is that we can bring it in cheaper than is currently the case.
Who will be the ones who will get the butane to the port?
The National Gas Company will, as I understand it, place the order, but that's just it. They will accept bids for the transportation, and so that is where these current operators that have the capacity for logistics can come in and make their bids. If the bids are not competitive, then that's a different story.
But remember, PM, that they have been bringing it in through land, so now it's a different set of logistics.
And
so
that is what will, as far as we're concerned, result in lower prices. Now, if they have to make some adjustments because they are accustomed to the overland transfer, well, that is what the change is about, and that is fundamental to the change because that is what will give us the lower wholesale price.
In a sense, it is starting to seem now that the NGCL isn't really doing much. If you have these same people bringing in the butane to the port, yes, they're creating the depots and so, but They're supposed to be transporting their own butane.
No. They're supposed to be ensuring that the supply of the butane is at a price lower considerably than is currently the case.
On Wednesday morning, the body of Salvadoran national Raul Revelo was retrieved from the Manatee Lookout area in the Belize River. Revelo's friends, Walter Gomez, reported to police that Revelo was trying to swim across the river when he suddenly went underwater and didn't resurface. The authorities searched the area and didn't find the body until around 9:30. Today, police told the media that Revelo's postmortem showed that he died as a result of drowning.
In regards to the incident involving Raul Revelo, who went swimming in the Belize River, on Wednesday, his body was recovered from the Belize River. A post-mortem examination was conducted, which revealed that he died as a result of drowning.
Sir, so he was just there swimming?
That is the information we have, that he was swimming in that area at the time when he went under and did not resurface.
Sir, he was alone? Or was he accompanied with friends?
There were other persons there, and he was seen go under. He never resurfaced.
Is that an area, that they would normally go? You've spoken to people who were with him?
Yeah, that is an area where people would go to fishing, or sometimes they would make their way across the river.
Belize City resident Eugene Tillett was shot on Wednesday night on Ebony Street. Tillett was reportedly making his way to Central American Boulevard when the gunman appeared and fired a single shot, which hit him. Tillett is now in a critical condition at the KHMH. Senior Superintendent Gilberto Romero tells us more.
Upon their arrival, information was received that one person was shot and was taken to the Carl Husha Memorial Hospital. Police visited the hospital where they found Eugene Tillett with one gunshot injury to the lower left abdomen. Information was received that Tillett was walking on Ebony Street when he was approached by a male person who pulled out a firearm and fired a single shot at him. Eugene Tillett remains at the KHMH in a critical condition.
Sir, do we know what motivated the shooting?
We do not know that at this time. We are reviewing video surveillance, and the investigation is ongoing at this time.
Do you have any suspects?
There was another shooting on Ebony Street in Belize City. This one happened on Tuesday night, where 28-year-old Linsford Baldwin was targeted. Sometime after 8 that night, Baldwin was along with a sibling on a front steps of a house when a man approached them and opened fire. Baldwin was shot in the shoulder and is now recovering at the hospital. Police shared the details of the shooting.
Upon the arrival, information was received that one person was shot and taken to the Carl Husha Memorial Hospital for treatment. Police visited the hospital where they found Linsford Baldwin, 28 years, suffering from one gunshot wound to the shoulder. This time he is in a stable condition at the hospital. We are seeking one person in connection to this shooting incident.
Any motive, sir?
No motive at this time.
Police say that Aaron Munnings robbed a 90-year-old man of $2,000. Munnings was arrested and charged with one count of robbery. This charge stems from an incident that happened on Tuesday just outside of St. John's Credit Union on Bassler Street in Belize City. The elderly man, identified as Louis Tillett, had just exited the credit union, where he had withdrawn $2,000 from his account and was riding away on his bike when a man confronted him and threw him down in the middle of the street. The man grabbed the $2,000 and hurried away. The robbery was captured on surveillance camera, and based on police investigation and that video, they've apprehended and charged Munnings. This morning, police gave an update before that charge was levied. Here's more from Senior Superintendent Gilberto Romero.
In regards to the report made by Mr. Louis Tillett regarding the robbery, there is one person in custody. Investigation is ongoing, and we will determine by the end of today whether charges will be levied upon this individual.
Left from there with money, do you know if perhaps there are persons close to him who may have revealed information or?
Well, that is a part of the investigation, so detectives are presently doing more interviews, recording more statements to determine if there is any other connection to anyone therein who may have provided some sort of information.
After the break, a fire guts the house of Arlene Gordon in Lord's Bank.
For those who like to have unlimited options in life, don't let limits hold you back.
Prepaid and hybrid customers
The day did not start and end well for Arlene Gordon, a resident of Lords Bank in Ladyville. At about 7:30, a fire erupted inside her house and spread quickly, completely destroying the wooden structure and its contents. Fortunately for Gordon, she was able to safely get out of the house. The cause of the blaze is still unknown. News 5's Hippolyta Novello reports.
Early this morning, Ladyville firefighters responded to an inferno that was consuming a 30 by 20 elevated wooden structure in Lords Bank Village. The fire blazed for more than 30 minutes before firefighters managed to bring it under control.
Fire personnel responded and the building was completely burnt. Investigation revealed the owner of that house to be Arlene Gordon of Lords Bank Village. Well, there was no one there when the fire started.
So everything destroyed, do you know?
Everything was destroyed.
There is an estimate for the loss?
We do not have an estimate as to the cost of the building or the contents at this time.
The house belongs to Arlene Gordon. Her father, Egbert, told News 5 that Arlene managed to escape the blaze unhurt.
This morning about 7:30, my son, he worked on a boat for a key call and tell me, right? And somebody can't tell him that the house burned. Yeah.
And then he informed you, or?
Yeah, then he informed me. It was a shock, right? I was breakdown.
Miss Arlene, she lived there alone?
Yeah, she lived there alone.
Okay. Do you know if she was inside the house when the fire erupted?
No, I have no idea.
Okay. But she's not injured. She's
safe.
Okay.
He left. Apparently, get out before he completely engulfed, right?
Okay. Yeah. Have you spoken to her to find out what happened?
Well, she just said her house just burned because, as I tell you, she have a problem.
Do you believe that the fire broke up intentionally or accidentally?
I believe accidentally.
The cause of the fire has yet to be established. The house and its contents were completely destroyed.
Well, I see completely burned, right? The whole place, you know.
What were inside the house? Was it that?
Well, our dwelling house, it had a stove, it had a washing machine and personal stuff.
And everything is gone?
Everything is gone, yeah.
Were the things, objects, material insured? Or?
Nothing insured, yeah.
Reporting for News 5, Hippolyta Novello.
Norris Main Sr., 4 of his sons, and another man were found on the vessel Carlita M in possession of 399 conchs during the closed season. The men were busted by Fisheries Officer Nikian Gomez on September 30th, a day shy from the opening of the conch season. Appearing in court along with the older Main were his sons Norris Jr., Marco, Carl, and Romario, as well as their friend Melvin McKay. They appeared before Magistrate Kadeen Palmer, where the father took the rap. Initially, all pleaded not guilty, but the seasoned fisherman was very concerned as to their livelihood, so when the magistrate offered bail, Norris changed his plea to guilty. He was fined $200, which he was ordered to pay by November 1st, 2019. Additionally, Norris was charged a total of $7,980 for the conch. A pair of siblings from Ladyville and Belize City was before the court today on a single charge of possession of a homemade firearm. Erwin Lanza and his older brother Cameron Lanza appeared before Senior Magistrate Aretha Ford. Police claim that on Wednesday morning they executed a search at a house in Lords Bank and found the firearm in a mattress. Erwin, who resides at the house, took the rap and told the senior magistrate that the gun belonged to him. He claimed that he went to buy at a Chinese store, and while walking behind the shop he found the gun, and since he was intoxicated he took it home. He begged the court for leniency, but senior magistrate explained that since he has a previous firearm conviction, she sentenced him to 4 years in jail. Erwin's court record also shows that he owed the court $4,700. He told the court that his family will pay $2,500 towards the bill by the end of the day. There's much more news after the break, so stay tuned. Agricultural health and food safety in the Caribbean were the focus of discussions today at the series of CARICOM meetings taking place at the Biltmore in Belize City. Today's session was the 13th meeting of the Board of Directors of the Caribbean Agricultural Health and Food Safety Agency, CAFSA. The work of that agency entails providing regional and national support in establishing and managing agricultural health and food safety systems in CARICOM member states. Chief Executive Officer Simeon Collins says member states are demanding more of CAFSA, and consequently, the organization's board had a series of matters to look at and decide upon in this week's meeting.
They're asking us to host the CGPC Secretariat at the headquarters of CAFSA. The CGPC is the regional pesticide body. So that's one of the decisions we got to take. Another is that they're asking us to host the Regional Biosafety Clearinghouse on our website. The Regional Biosafety Clearinghouse would be used to accept first applications of any LMOs or GMOs coming into the region. So we would have to, first of all, do whatever risk analysis that are necessary and advise as to whether it should come in. We have since been made what is referred to as the Regional Plant Protection Organization for the Caribbean. Each hemisphere has a plant protection organization, so we are responsible for that. We have been made the Regional Plant Protection Organization for the Caribbean. And now also what will be discussed at this meeting is the creation of what we refer to as a Task Force on Food Safety, a Caribbean Task Force on Food Safety.
Where does the Caribbean stand now in terms of food safety?
In terms of food safety, we are trying to harmonize standards and legislation as much as possible. Okay? We have, for instance, a Chief Veterinary Organization, CCVO's meeting. We have a Chief Plant Health Officers meeting, as the name CPHG, Caribbean Plant Health Organization. We also have one in terms of pesticide, but we haven't got one on food safety that would harmonize standards in that area. So this is what we are discussing now, and we are hoping to put that in place to harmonize standards so that that can facilitate trade. But food safety in the region is a very, very important aspect of our work.
The CARICOM meetings conclude on Friday. The spread of sargassum has affected numerous countries in the region where tourism is a primary industry. In the margins of the ongoing CARICOM meetings, we got an update on how the beaches of the Caribbean are being impacted by the seaweed that is washing up on the beaches. CRFM's Executive Director Milton Houghton told us that the phenomenon has been impacting the Eastern Caribbean since 2011. And continues to bloom in unprecedented quantities in recent years, distressing coastal communities, tourism, and the fisheries industries. Houghton says that there is massive change taking place in the dynamics of the marine ecosystem.
The challenge for us is, okay, I mean, all this is happening and we're getting these blooms and they're causing a lot of disruption with fisheries, and we're seeing new species. We're not seeing some species that we're used to seeing, such as the flying fish. I mean, their numbers and the catches of flying fish have declined significantly, but we're catching large numbers of dolphin fish, but unfortunately it is juvenile dolphin fishes that's associated with the sargassum. So that's a major concern for us. Based on the scientific information that we have, there are a number of factors that's contributing to this. The warming waters, the increased nutrients in the water coming from various sources. One of the main sources seems to be upwelling of nutrient-rich water off the coast of Africa, but also discharges from the large river systems in South America, Central America, that is all going into the ocean and increasing the nutrient.
Coming up after the break, the Minister of Immigration says Belize has rejected the third safe countries concept proposed by the U.S.
Hey Belize, Benny's Deal Alert season
A surge of migrants from Central America, specifically El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, is pushing governments in the region and beyond to re-examine relevant policies. Migrants, including a growing number of women and children, are fleeing the troubled region in record numbers. On average, about 265 people have left annually in recent years, and this number is on track to double in 2019. Migrants are heading to the U.S., and according to Minister of Immigration Godwin Holtz, he chairs a cabinet subcommittee that was specifically formed to address this dilemma.
We've formed a month ago a cabinet subcommittee on migration, which I chair. And the idea was to be able to sit down with the ministries of national security, of course the Ministry of Education, Immigration, the Ministry of Human Development, and to be able to look at this issue, because there were two things that jumped out at us that we were very concerned about. The ICE flights coming from the US and the US policy with respect to migrants. We don't know where that's going to go. As you know, about 2 to 3 years ago, they were in deep discussion with Belize to use Belize as one of these third safe houses, countries rather, and we opposed strongly. That was under the Obama administration. Surprisingly, when the Trump administration came to office, there was a similar arrangement with Australia, and the Trump administration, or at least President Trump himself, it was reported, told the Prime Minister of Australia that was a very stupid concept. So we will hold him to that. We're not going to be a third safe country. We are not in any way prepared to enter into those negotiations at this time. But the other issue, which is the mass migration up, that is why we created the committee to begin to look at all the possibilities. Should we get a rush at the border points? Because if we got a rush at the border point, well, trickling in is another matter, but a rush is what we have to deal with. Trickling in, we're able to handle, we're able to return, we're able to do all of that. It goes beyond that though. We're also looking seriously at this whole issue of citizenship rights and protection. The police and the immigration authorities are continuously pursuing these people. There are raids going on all the time, and there are people being OTL'd all the time and people being deported all the time. That is an ongoing, continuing process.
USA-based Hobbs Brewing Company started distribution of 12-ounce cans and kegs from out of Plasencia earlier this year. Hobbs' production in Belize features 2 super premium beers called the Wildcat IPA and Hummingbird Belizean Golden Ale. Over the weekend, Hobbs Brewing Company launched its own calendar for 2020, which features Belizean women. According to the Hobbs team, the calendar was done to promote the best of Belize. Hobbs' brewmaster, Garrick Rodemeyer, spoke with the press about what makes Hobbs the only beer worth drinking.
For a smaller company like us, it's basically for microbrewery and craft brewery, we actually have hands-on. We are actually adding the hops into the kettle. We are mixing the wort for when we're doing the mash it, when we're actually putting the grains in the mash tun. We're doing the transfers, we're moving the hoses around. For us, we like the hands-on. We're able to actually add in as much hops as we can. We can adjust if we need to adjust flavors, or if there's issues with water, by adding various minerals to actually help the water so it actually makes a better beer.
What's been the reaction to the beer so far?
Yeah. So far, it's actually going very well. We can't keep up with demand. I mean, it's at our level, to be completely honest, we couldn't keep up with it anyways, but we are having such high demand right now from all over the country because it's so new and it's so different, because we're an ale. They do lagers at Pelican. They stick with lager beer, which is completely different.
The calendar is now available at Hobbs' office on the Plasencia Road. Up next, Healthy Living looks at the challenges faced by our Golden citizens.
Making proper use of report with a global perspective.
Recently, the more common news reports about the elderly population in Belize have been about crimes where older persons are victims. It is just one of the vulnerabilities that this population faces. After commemorating the International Day of Older Persons on Tuesday, October 1st, and the successful launch of the Front of the Line campaign, we take some time to look at the other challenges faced by our golden citizens in tonight's Healthy Living.
The most important thing when you look at an older person is before you see age, you see a person. And you start to think, how would I like to be treated? How would I like someone to speak to me?
Ishelle Pott is the Executive Director of the National Council on Aging, an organization created in 2003 to advocate for the issues affecting our senior population.
We're hoping that Front of the Line is really going to jump into the national platform, open a lot more discussion, raise a lot more awareness. Not only that older people exist in our community, but how we treat older people existing in our community.
According to the last census, in 2010, about 6% of our population was over 60 and over. So roughly 20,000 Belizeans are in this age group. While it is commonly said that aging is a privilege, for many of our Belizean seniors, it's not without its challenges.
One of the major things that a lot of older persons face is isolation. As we age, we are looking at not having a fixed place in society, and that's why it's so important to have organizations that run social support programs, day programs for seniors, or have activities that are age inclusive. The curiosity or the curious thing about aging is that we can only appreciate an age after we've been there. We can identify with children at 5 who have no Christmas gifts because we remember being 5 and what it felt like to receive Christmas gifts. But you can't identify with a 70-year-old eating alone if you've never been 70 years old eating alone.
HelpAge and other groups try to fill the void of social interactions for the elderly, but there is room for more age-inclusive events. In terms of priorities, there's one critical issue that continuously affects golden citizens.
In the same year that 6% was identified, 2010, the country did release its country poverty assessment, and at that time, 34% of that 6% of older persons was living in poverty. So we're looking at a very vulnerable population that is having a difficult time to meet very real basic human needs. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, parents had children because the children would take care of you. But the way society has shifted, the way things are costing, adult children's ability to meet their parents' financial needs 100% has declined, and so we find older persons in precarious situations themselves financially. Most older people, even those who are receiving, say for example, the non-contributory pension, which is $100 a month, a lot of older people were living off credit with their little neighborhood store. So I would get groceries and then I would pay something towards my bill when I get my money. I wouldn't necessarily clear my bill, but I would pay something towards my bill. And then there were other older persons who had strong faith-based organizations, whether they're local church or missionary groups, who would provide for them some kind of stability. Of course, family members. And then, of course, you have older people who still work that we can identify. We see them selling fruits and vegetables. We see them on market days. They're not out there because they want to be. They're out there because they have to be.
Meeting expenses is one financial challenge, but protecting assets is another. This is an issue that the NCA hopes will become a more prominent part of the conversation.
Banks would tell you, we see older people come in and we think that there are people taking advantage of them, but our tellers don't know what to do. There's nothing in place for us to do, and regulated by bank confidentiality. What can we do? So we're hoping that this campaign will open up those larger discussions that will push us to real legislative change, to regulations.
Until then, the NCA continues to educate all age groups about aging and preparing for aging.
While I cannot change necessarily the financial status of an older person who is 70 or 80 right now, we can put in place, or we can educate the 25-year-old, the 30-year-old, so that when you hit 70, this is not your reality.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, good night.